Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from DeltaCX.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy and we do training. Check us out. And welcome to August 25, 2021. And today is a micro lesson on setting up unmoderated research. I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to teach interpreting unmoderated research, but if we don't get to that, that will be a super future show. Remember that you can subscribe here on YouTube. It's ad-free, and you're welcome to join our also completely free Slack workspace, deltacx.link/join Slack. All one word, lowercase, you know it. Now, today I'm going to be showing how I set up some unmoderated research. I've queued up a usability test, a card sort, and a tree test. And these are already closed and I'm not paying for those accounts anymore, so I won't have access to all the things, but I'll show you as much as I can. And please remember that everything you see today is hashtag not sponsored. Nobody pays me for mentioning their company here. Maybe by the time you're watching this video, I'm using a different service. So remember, these are not sponsored. Nobody has paid for this. Nobody asked me to mention them. This is who I paid and used at the time. And I cannot guarantee that I would use them again in the future. So I will jump in. Now, of course, as I'm going, please make sure you are asking your questions about setting up unmoderated research. If you have a question about what is unmoderated research, please. Charlene is here and she's got her gun out, hence the gun emoji. If you are not sure about moderated and unmoderated research, please go to our live podcasts playlist and look up episode 123. That was unmoderated and moderated research with special guest Michelle Ronson. I-10 is here with her many panda bears. Thank you. And so again, I'm just going to be sharing my screen and showing you how I do things. I'm happy to take questions along the way. We will see the chat room as we go. So let me flip over to my screen and press the button. Okay, so we should be looking at the chat room, the optional tip jar, me over here, and I've got a browser ready to go. So the last time I ran an unmoderated usability study, I did use UX Tweak. This was an experiment. I had heard about them. I had not used them before. Ultimately, there were things I liked about them and things I didn't like about them. I think if I had another study, I would give them another chance. But that's me talking to you in August 2021. I don't know what I would do in the future or if my experience with them went better or worse. So remember, as we discussed in episode 123, any study you do, moderated or unmoderated, has to start with a plan. You've got to start with what's our goals? What are we trying to learn? How are we going to learn it? Where are we going to find these people? How many should there be? There's still a lot of stuff you have to figure out. And in some cases, you have to plan it even better because you're not there to improvise. If something goes on, you're not there as the moderator to say, ooh, I better ask this other question. You have to plan it even better because you're not going to be there. That also reminds us of what Michelle told us on Monday in episode 123, pilot your study. We absolutely did that with this one. We had a few people test it out, and that way we could fix any bugs in it, make sure our prototype opened correctly, make sure the prototype worked, make sure when we said it was prototype number 1, it really was prototype number 1. So the piloting and the testing are really important. You don't want to launch this thing without that. Kayleen says, I wrote down some of the services mentioned on Monday: user testing, usability hub, user zoom, and look back. And of course, now I have to go into my new stuff here. Let's see, what do I have to press to get this going on? Output, preview, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I think I can do this. Did that do not sponsored? Hashtag not sponsored for any of those. Clear. Did that work? I'm not looking at the right thing. I just built that today and it's not finished. So there you go. There are lots of options out there. And again, that's why we talked about being tool agnostic. So I used UX Tweak this time. I might use somebody else next time. Kind of doesn't matter. So let's take a look. We did website testing, and this was a finished study. and we did 2 at the same time. So remember, you've heard me talk about this project we had this year before. We had B2B and we had B2C. And then we had people who'd been to our client site before and people who hadn't been to our client site before. But in this case, it wasn't that important. We didn't put the logo on the prototype, so it didn't matter if they happened to know this client or not. The website was fairly anonymous. We didn't put anything on there that would tell you which website this was, but you could tell what they sold. And yes. So this was the identical test, except we wanted to find 6 people who were B2B and 6 people who were B2C. And there's a reason for 6 that I'll share in a moment. All right, so let's open up one of these and let's see. I can't go to results. I think I can go, oh, how did I do this the other day? Study setup, because again, my account has expired. I'm not paying for the account right now. You're going to see lots of messages that says it's read only and you need to upgrade. So I was paying for this when I ran it, and now I'm not paying. So first of all, for setting it up, there's a lot going on here in UX Tweak. They did have a lot of settings, so it was really important to read through these multiple times. I think I even invited Ralitza to come and read through these. I was so afraid of missing something. I don't know if she read through these, but she definitely did pilot the study. So for starters, what's the name of your study? So this is, sometimes people see that name, so you don't want to necessarily put the client name there. That's another good thing to check in your pilot, is whatever you named the study visible to the client based on which tool you're using. And it's going to be different from tool to tool. So you want to make sure, did people see this? Did I write the client's name in it? Or did I give them a hint of what we're trying to learn? So this, of course, is very, very bland. Promotional products, usability study, B2C. There's nothing anybody's going to get from that, whether they saw it or not. Language, domain. So the domain I needed to make sure was approved for this was AxShare, because we were running an AxShare prototype, again, not sponsored. This requires me to install a snippet of code in the AxShare prototype. And you might be going, oh no, Deb, how are you going to do that? Super easy, barely an inconvenience, to quote Ryan George. So basically, you can go into your AxShare prototype from the AxShare Cloud website, and you can add snippets of code. I'm not going to go into that here, but it's really not that hard. Kayleen says, time to do IA research on these settings. Yeah, it's funny. A lot of the tools have weird UX, and I just have to live with it. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on this page, and it is what it is. So are we going to try to identify our respondents? In my case, they were anonymous. I didn't need to collect. They were anonymous, but we did later ask them their email, and you'll see why. Do I want to store their IP address? Is this a private study with a password? It was. I wanted to make sure that people didn't just appear here and guess at the URL or whatever, so we put a password on it. It was quite simply June. Now, that's another thing to pilot. Make sure if you meant to put a password on it, you do. Make sure the password works, and make sure when you're contacting people and inviting them to the study, you tell them the password. I think I've gotten that wrong at least once. I go, oh my God, we invited people to the study and we didn't tell the password. Make sure you get the password. Seth goes, things you can't do on Figma, code snippets. Yep, AxShare does allow that, especially as of version 9 and in AxShare.cloud. Charlene says, what did that code do to your AxShare prototype? It only let the AxShare prototype show an overlay that was the UX tweak system. So that way, when people arrived at the prototype, there was an overlay that was like, hi, you're about to do a UX tweak thing, and you're going to move through this page. But then there were controls on the top to see the task again or move to the next task and things like that. So that was what the code snippet did. So you needed it there. It is not optional. When should this study close? Do you want to close it manually? Do you want to close it when you hit a certain number, or do you want to close it on a certain date? So again, I like the flexibility of the settings here, and there's a lot more that I'm going to show you. Look at the tabs up here, people. I'm going to tell you all these. So we've got, and then I've got 2 more studies to show you. So this whole time is going to be studies. So we decided to close it at 6. Could you run it more? You could, but we were paying these people. So we didn't want to be like, yeah, 50, 100, 200, let them all come. We did definitely want to limit it because then we were giving them an incentive and we had a limited budget. So 6 it was. Okay, so what tasks are we going to give these people? Here's my task. Task 1, you are considering purchasing at least 250 mugs with a logo on them. You have $800 to spend. You'd like them to arrive on Friday, June 18th. And of course, we were running this study just before that, about a week before that. Please show how you'd use this page to decide if this item might fit your criteria. This is page A. Please note it's a prototype with some limitations. Some elements might not be clickable. Some pricing may be sample. And then this was the address of the actual prototype. And then where do they go? And questions after this task. What did you like about page A? What could be improved about page A? So these were just open text boxes. So it's like a little mini qual adventure after they used it to say things that they liked and things that could be improved. Charlene said, what if one of the 6 went wrong or there were technical glitches or voice not recorded? Yeah, that is true. We did have one of the 6 not talk for the whole time. And we were like, oh no, they were supposed to speak out loud. Wasn't that in the instructions? So we had to do our best to make sense of what that person was doing and see if we could still kind of get anything from watching them use it. This is where an unmoderated test still kind of ends up as a asynchronous observational study. So yes, very often if the technical glitch is the fault of the tool, they will give you another one for free. But UX Tweak has a monthly unlimited subscription. So if I needed more people, I could have just had more people. But yeah, it would affect whether or not I'm paying that person an incentive. If you are working with someone's panel and the person does a bad job, usually you can report that to the panel and they deal with that person. You don't have to pay them and they give you a replacement. So that's the story here. Now you can see, where do you want the task panel? That's what I was talking about, the overlay, and the reason why we put in the snippet code. We had it at the top. And then Kayleen says, why does the input look so different from what the tester will be seeing? I don't understand that question. I'm sorry. So do what we want, think aloud turned on. So sound recording is mandatory, sound recording is optional. We did make it mandatory, but then we had that one weird person who never said a word. Tasks. Do we want to allow respondents to skip any of the tasks? I did not. You might. Randomized task order. This I was really excited about trying because you will see that we gave people 2 tasks. There was look at page A. What did you like and what could be improved? And look at page B. What did you like? What could be improved? And to help it be a little bit more scientific, we wanted to make sure that half the people saw A first and half the people saw B first. Because sometimes there's bias. Sometimes people love the first thing they see no matter what's second. And sometimes they love the second thing no matter what they see first, because now they have some intelligence from what they saw in the first one, and they'll use that for how they think the second one works. So, Kayleen says, if I were using this, I would constantly be going between this page and the preview. The preview. Well, maybe I'm not getting a preview because I didn't pay. But yeah. Anyway, ask questions after each task. Totally optional. You can also ask questions at the end, which we also did. So you can have questions after each task, at the end, both, whatever. Crowd feedback. I'm trying to remember what that was. Oh, let respondents vote on ideas. Yeah, we didn't want to do that. It sounded like an interesting feature, but didn't match our test. So we had 2 tasks. We had task 1 and task 2 is identical. We just showed people page B. We even gave them the same scenario. So task 1 and task 2 were the same except that we showed them two different prototype pages. So that is some of the settings around the task. Next, you can customize your messages. And again, different tools will be different, but I love all of the extra settings. So do you want a privacy and consent page? Do you want a welcome message? Do you want instructions? And if so, they're all going to be here. So now I can just customize these instructions. I can say, by doing this test, you agree with this consent form, which I have up on as a web page. They can click and read it if they would like. Welcome message, thanks for agreeing. We're going to show you two different page designs, and you'll be comparing them at the end, so please make a note of if you liked A or B better. Instructions, please think out loud, no right or wrong answers, click done at the end of a task. And you can customize all this if you want. So thank you message, the message people see if they get to this and it's closed. So you can customize all of that. Now the questionnaire is what we asked people at the end, but you can see there are choices here. Do you want screening questions? Do you want pre-study questions? And do you want post-study questions? So as you can see, we didn't use the screener because we had done another method for screening. We didn't use pre-study questions, but we did have questions after each task, and then we had questions at the end. Charlene says, was this after you did your screening or along with the screening? Yep, exactly. So you can do some screening in this system. I guess it would have blocked certain people from coming or going, but because it was a paid panel and we were working with user interviews, definitely not sponsored. I don't enjoy using the user interviews system. I wish I could find something better, but they keep giving us good people, and I'm grumpy about their system. I like their people, grumpy about their system. So we could have done some sort of screening here, but we're using user interviews and then paying the user interviews people. So we did have some questions at the end, and we did want to warn people that we are collecting personal data. And that was because we did need their name and email address so that we could track them down, match them up with our user interviews survey respondents, and tell user interviews which people filled out our study so that they can get points or whatever they get, and we could send them some money with PayPal. So we did need to collect personal information. Your study may be different. So for post-study questions, here's just the text you want to say at the top of the screen. Which of the two-page designs did you prefer? Page A or page B? And then we had why did you prefer that one? And then what was your name and what was your email, so that we could report your participation and pay you, as we did. You can randomize the questions, but that didn't make sense. They worked well in order. You could do one question per page. I don't need that. They can all be on the same page. Screening we did not do. So I think, let's see. Oh, no, we did. So their idea of screening isn't, on this screen, isn't screener survey. It's, do we need to specifically block from certain areas? Since our client is American and only ships to America, we said only record from allowed regions. And then I think we had somewhere here that we only wanted people from America. I'm not seeing now where that came in. I think I took that on. I think I took that off because we ended up just picking Americans through user interviews. So, but I think we could have tried to block some of this. Sessions, record from inputs, identify user, record email, record numeric values. So record on-page numeric values, I think it was if people typed in fields, it would record some of that, but I think it replaced it with stars. Right, so if enabled, we'll see numbers. If disabled, numbers will be asterisks. And record form inputs also, I think, is, do we want to see what people are typing, or do we want to see stars to anonymize it and things like that? So again, another nice feature. We didn't have anything on the page that asked people personal information. We were pretending they're shopping for mugs, so we wanted to see what they would type into different boxes. Record on all pages, yes. Branding, put up our logo. Why the heck not? We picked our favorite color. Why the heck not? The recruiting we didn't use. Ultimately, we just took the URL that UX Tweak gave us for the study, and we manually sent that to some selected user interviews participants. I think we sent to more than the number of people that we wanted, and knowing that when enough people filled it out, UX Tweak would tell them you're too late, studies over. We got 6 people. So again, back on the finished studies, we did 2 of these. They were identical. So once I built one and it tested well, I duplicated it and we did a B2B one. And that way we sent the invitation to B2B people and B2C people. So I'm kind of wrapping up on the unmoderated usability test. So let me know if you have any questions about that. I will wait a moment to see if anything comes in. I think we have a bit of a long lag today, so while we do that, I'll just take a moment to remind everybody, nothing is sponsored today. I am showing companies and naming companies, but they have not paid to participate. I paid them, and that's it. I might not pay them again. So next we're going to be moving to card sort, and if we have time today, we'll also do, actually I'll run late if I have to, we'll do tree test. So if you have any questions about the usability test or what UX Tweak calls the website test, and you can see UX Tweak also does card sorts, tree tests, and other things. I have not yet used them for card sorts and other things. I only used it for the website test. I'm typically using Optimal Workshop for my other stuff. No particular reason. I just like their tool, hashtag not sponsored, and it might be the kind of thing I stick with a little bit. So I'm still here. Let's see if I have to log in again. So this is an old card sort that I ran in a workshop that I did to teach people about what card sorts were. So what we did was we did a card sort of the Apple website, and you can tell from some of the cards how old this is because we're promoting the iPhone 11 and we're still trying to sell the iPhone 8. And so let's see what else is on here. So again, it's obviously not everything that was on the Apple website, but for the purposes of teaching people, I picked 15 areas of the apple.com website to have them card sort them. Charlene asks, can you link any prototype like Figma, and can you add links to websites? You absolutely can, as long as you can drop UX Tweak's code snippet in there. And again, some other companies do it the same way. You have to add their script code or whatever, but ultimately I think you can use absolutely any website where you can drop the script code. That means it would not be easy for you to send somebody to a competitor's website with a tool like this. You'd probably have to do that moderated so that you can say, hey, open your browser, share your screen. We're recording this call. Now please go to this website and let's talk about it. So it would probably be hard to do with this particular tool, the competitor websites, because you can put the snippet of code there. Okay, so when it comes to card sorts, you are putting in cards. You're putting in different things that need to be organized or turned into some sort of taxonomy. So these were the cards. Now, in a card sort, there's 3 types: open, closed, and hybrid. An open card sort lets the participant make any categories they want. They can make as many as they want. They can name them what they want. They can categorize them. It's all theirs. It's completely open. In a closed card sort, you have made the categories. So you're saying, this is the category. These are the categories. Now organize things where you think you'd put them. I never do a closed card sort because I feel like I'm priming the pump a little bit too much. I'm leading people. I'm giving them some clues of how I think this should be organized by giving them categories. I have done one hybrid, and the hybrid is where it's mostly open, but you've made one or more starter categories for the participant. And we did that last year for the large client that I sometimes talk about. We did a card sort. We actually did moderated and unmoderated at the same time, and that was pretty cool because then we had 52 people doing the unmoderated. We had 12 doing the moderated, so we had lots of data on what and why. And we did hybrid because we were asking people to reorganize some things that are on a web page. And it's a form people fill out. So the form has different sections. And we realized in the earlier interviews that we had done, an observational study, that not all of the parts of the form made sense to people. Not all of the parts of the form were relevant to their needs. Some people told us they wish they could take these off the form. So when we did the card sort, we did the hybrid, and the only category I gave people ahead of time was, I wish I could take this off the page, or something like that. And we let people know that they could organize things into the buckets that they wanted. But if there were one of those cards that they wish weren't there, then they can drag it into that one, and we'll know that that means that they would love to have a page without that. Kayleen says, sounds like a closed card sort is more evaluative. Maybe, but again, it could be we've already decided on this hierarchy. Now where do people think the sub things go? But again, I think that's just too closed. Because I love that the people can come up with their own names for the categories. And sometimes it's not helpful. Sometimes it's payment stuff and you're like, all right. But sometimes they give you some good ideas on that. I10 says, it's mainly for digital products and features, right? I can't think of an example of card sorting for physical products. Right, if you have a card sort that you would rather do with something physical, or you want to do it with sticky notes with someone sitting there, or actual cards of some sort, yes, this doesn't really work. Ultimately, this would be, all the tests I'm showing you are really for digital things. So that's your card sort. Messages and instructions, again, lots of tools have screens where you can customize welcome messages, instructions messages, thank you messages. This study is closed messages, so you can just, and many of them put text in by default that you can leave or that you can customize. So nothing special here. Charlene says supermarket. What do you mean supermarket? Now questionnaire. So Optimal Workshop, like many other tools, lets you create either a screener where people have to ask a question when they hit the card sort, and maybe you don't let them do the card sort if they don't pass your screener, or you can create pre-study questions and post-study questions. Okay. So here we didn't do a screener, but you could. And they give you an example. They show you an example of how you can do it. Here's your rejection message if someone doesn't answer the way you want and you don't want them to do the card sort. Or how are you going to identify people? Here it was anonymously. And then these were my pre-study questions. But because this study is closed and done and I'm not paying anymore, you can see I can't edit them, but originally I could. So my questions were, what is your age? Where they got radio buttons. And then that was it. So I only asked people what were their age. A neat thing on Optimal Workshop, and I don't know if it's true for other tools, is that you can filter results by what people answered in these questions. So if for some reason you want to say, hey, let's see what everybody 36 to 45 did, you can slice that out, which is really helpful. And then post-study questions, again, this was something I just did in a workshop to show people about card sorts. So I said, please comment on the card sorting experience. And then there's additional settings. Here's the URL. What language is this in? Do you want it password protected? When should we close it? Again, you saw some of the same things over in UX Tweak. These are pretty standard across tools. They're just, different ways that people do it. Kayleen says, I forget, do you have an episode on analyzing unmoderated research results? Yeah, I said at the beginning of this that I do not, and I don't think I'm going to have time today to do that. So I think we're going to have to schedule it. Let me write it down. So, analyzing unmoderated results. We'll have to plan something for that. I'm not going to get to that today. Now, you guys are talking about, what if you had to sort things in supermarkets in physical places? If that can be represented digitally, you could still do that here. You could say, where in the supermarket do you expect to find zucchini? And someone might say, fruit, vegetables, produce, front of the store. So you could still do it digitally if you wanted. You wouldn't necessarily have someone actually run around a supermarket. So some of these things do translate into the digital world. And again, design is usually your logo, your favorite color, and stuff like that. And that's it. And then normally you're dealing with recruiting, where they're going to give you a link or a way to easily share it out. And then you'll eventually get your results. So again, this was the setup of a card sort. It is not the interpretation of a card sort, where this show's already half over. I don't think I'm going to have time to show interpretations. So let's focus just on these setups. Anybody have any questions now about both the unmoderated usability or website test that I showed, or this unmoderated card sort? Because if not, I will talk about tree testing. I think there's a long delay today, so I'm going to wait a moment for see if you have any questions. Any questions, anybody? Oh, we've got one from Iton. Says, if we're planning to do both a website study and a card sort, do we do them with the same people or different? It really depends on if you have any specific reason to do them with same or different people. Sometimes we have to run a study, say, with an internal team because the product is enterprise or it's for an internal team. Sometimes you're stuck with the same 5, 10, 20 people to pull from because that's the internal team that's going to use it, and you do want to test on them. In general, I do try to use fresh people all the time, especially if it's a second round of testing. Like, hey, we did a round of usability testing. We made some changes to the prototype. We're going to run it again. I definitely want fresh people. The card sort and the usability test are so different that it might not be bad if they're same or different. But again, I would say look back at your research goals and just make sure that you are recruiting for whatever is important to you. If it's important that they be different and fresh and whatever, do it. When we did our project last year, we did recruit fresh people. We did not use the same people that we had interviewed and observed. We used all new people. Both for the moderated and unmoderated. So I'd say many times you are getting fresh people. Once in a while you have a reason to recycle people, but usually we are doing all fresh people. Super question. Anything else that I'm leaving out or anything else that comes to mind as a question before I move on to tree testing? I will move on to tree testing because I know there's a long lag today, but if a question pops up, I will certainly answer it. All right, I'm still here. Okay, so let's talk about a tree test. A tree test is the happy, friendly cousin of the card sort. Very often we do a card sort to try to get a hint at people's perceptions, their mental models, and how they want things organized or put into some sort of taxonomy of categories and sub-items. And then typically we will work on our information architecture or our structure, but then we want to test that. We want to double check it. We don't want to just release it to the public. I don't care what your boot camp said. I don't care if your boot camp said guess at the navigation and the information architecture and the structure and then just build it. In the real world, we always try to have the time and budget to do a tree test. And the tree test lets us recreate that hierarchy or taxonomy that we've created and give people some fake tasks to see where in the hierarchy they think that the answer or object or information or product or whatever it is would be. So again, since this was part of a different workshop that I did, my Dev and UX workshop, this was once again the Apple website. And it's the Apple website from like 2018. It's a little bit on the old side. We can tell from whatever iPhone they're selling. iPhone X, ooh, 10, old stuff. I think it was the Apple site in 2018. So first you build your tree. Now you teach the system your whole hierarchy. So at the top I've got home. Underneath home, I've got Mac, iPad, iPhone, Apple Watch, and music. And again, this represents either your suggested information architecture, or in this case, this was the real Apple site. And I used this to show people how hard it was to find certain things on the Apple site, which surprised people. They think Apple, they're geniuses, right? Their website's got to be perfect. People stumble on this one all the time. I still trot it out at conferences. It's a big winner. People are like, I can't believe I couldn't figure out where that was. What the hell? But then I also have something in here that I purposefully write the question bad. And I use that to show them how bad questions lead to bad results. So I'll walk through all of that. So under Mac, we've got learn application. This is the real Apple hierarchy at the time. Learn applications, more Mac and support. And then if you went to learn, you learned about all the different Macs they were selling. So that's the way the hierarchy was at the time. So here's your iPhone. You can learn about different iPhone models. There was the Apple Watch. There was music. Let's go back under Mac again. iMac. Okay. So, I wonder if this is the wrong version of this. Let's check for a second. Tasks. Yeah, super. It is the right version. Oh, I-10 has a question. Then this method, it's also good to show stakeholders or team member if navigation in a certain product's prototype is poor. Do you mean, yeah, I mean, I would show them the results of this. I wouldn't have them do the tree test or the card sort, but I would love to show them these results. And in fact, I once won a small argument against Acture themselves by running a tree test. I know Kayleen is going to tell the story. Maybe later if we have time. So first thing you do in your tool is you build the tree. Top level, next level, next level, next level. This took a while. This was boring and it just took time. I probably spent almost an hour getting all these in, double checking them, blah, blah, blah. And then the next thing you do is you do your tasks. It's a story you don't know, Kayleen. It's a story about Acture. These were the tasks I gave people, and those of you who are friends of the show and critical thinkers will probably notice that the first question was written badly. And again, I wrote the first question badly on purpose to teach people about badly written questions. So my first task for people doing the tree test is you're curious about AirPods for your iPhone. Now, the way the tree test works is they're going to see this, and then they're going to see the tree. And they can click into it and go into the subcategories and sub-subcategories. They have to keep opening them up one at a time, and then eventually they have to pick something and say, I think I would find that here. Final answer. So that's how a tree test works. Sometimes people just stop at the first click. They call it first click test. Let's see if they're going to head in the right direction. Here, I want to see if they land in the right direction. Optimal Workshop lets you pick one or more ends of the tree that you would accept as a correct answer. Now, the person is never told if their answer is correct or not. You have an idea of where you know that information is found, either because it's a proposed hierarchy or it's the real hierarchy of an existing website that you're trying to prove is not good. So you put where this information is, even if this information is in a crappy place. So in 2018, you learned about AirPods on the Apple website. You had to go to Music, AirPods, Overview. So who can tell why I wrote the question that says, you're curious about AirPods for your iPhone? I'm going to let you answer that and see if you can figure it out. But while you do that, I'm going to mention that you can have multiple tasks. Usually we don't give people more than maybe 4 tasks. Otherwise, these tests start getting long. You'd have to pay them for more time. But I just did 2 tasks. You play guitar and sing. You're looking for Apple's Logic Pro Music recording software. This one was tricky too because you think it would be found in Music, but it's under Mac Applications. So Mac, then Applications, then Logic X. And again, you can see that from the tree. Mac, Applications, Logic Pro X. That's where it was. Charlene's got it. She says, you gave the word iPhone. Exactly. I wrote that to throw people in the wrong direction, to show them how you can easily make a tree test be total garbage by giving people a hint that helps them, or give them a hint that shows this failed because you have some horse in the race for it succeeding or failing. And yes, many people who I give this tree test to go straight to iPhone because they see that and they go, oh, that's a hint. AirPods are going to be under iPhones. But some of the super Apple fans know that I'm wrong and that it's actually under, at least in 2018, it was under Music, then AirPods, then Overview, which was not obvious. And of course, Apple have since changed it. I don't know if they showed up to one of my workshops or what. Now, of course, you can customize your messages and instructions. You can customize your questionnaire. So I ask people, because usually this is a workshop. So I ask them what's their job title, and they can write me messages, and there you go. And then you saw the settings before, when do you want this to end, and do you, what's your logo and your color and stuff like that. And that's all a tree test is. Set up your tree and give people tasks to do, and teach the system which ends of the tree would be considered correct answers. Because in a tree test, in the results, you're going to see, did people find the right place or not? And again, this, like any other test that we do in CX or UX, if people are failing the test and getting it wrong, it's not because of them or they're idiots or there's something wrong with them. It's a hint to us that we built something that's not intuitive that we need to improve. So as I go, any questions about creating a tree test? Looks like there were other options here, but now that the study is over, I can't change these. So it looks like I can randomize the task. Could I allow them to skip the task? Since this was a workshop, I did, but in a real study, I would not. The first task is not a training task, right? So you could have the first task be a training task, like here's a sample one. Okay, now let's do the real thing. TJ says, I missed the start. What tool is this? This is Optimal Workshop, though of course I have to tell you, not sponsored. None of the tools I'm showing today are sponsoring the podcast or Delta CX in any way. I pay for these tools, which is why they're all turned off. I have to pay for these, and that's why they're all turned off, and that's why I can't show you everything because I'm not paying for any of these. That's why this one says upgrade, and this one said, don't forget to upgrade, and I stopped paying for everybody. So clearly not sponsored, everybody. Charlene says, can you tell the system one or more correct answer? You can. Yes, thank you, Charlene. I missed that at first. You definitely can. We did a tree test a couple of years ago for an e-commerce website, and the answer to the question was actually on 2 pages. And so we wanted to make sure the system allowed either page as a correct answer. So yes, you could put in, you just say define correct answers, and you say which ones will you accept, and you see these are check boxes, so you can say that you will accept multiple correct answers. Normally for me it's always 1, but for one instance I can think of a few years ago we did have 2. I10 says, I have a question about tree and card test. If we want to figure out not the structure, but wording, for example, if labels are clear to interpret, do we still use these methods? If so, how? Yeah, that's a great question. And I think in some cases, that's where I might turn this into a moderated test, because that's where you sometimes learn where people go, let's say they're looking at the tree, and let's say they're going, learn in applications, and someone might go, learn? What's that? What's going to be in the learn section? I don't even know. Well, of course, only because this is a moderated test and we're talking to this person, did we hear that. If this is unmoderated, then we're just going to get quantitative data at the end with a little bit of qualitative data where there were open questions that I asked them before or after. So normally, if I want to know if the labels are a problem, I will normally do something more moderated so I can see see if as people go, they are confused. And we did find that in the card sort that we did last year for the famous client, where even though it was pieces of a web form that all of these participants had seen before, some people couldn't remember what it was. So some people, I found out later, some people did the test a little bit wonky, which we had to account for because they weren't too sure which part of the form we were referring to, even though I thought we were very clear and the pilot went well and the whole thing. So that's where the moderated helped us understand that, because when we did the moderated version of the same card sort, we found that some people said, oh, well, I think this means this, so I'm going to put this over here. Like there was an area for personalizing something, but it was allowing the person buying the item to personalize it, like with a custom message. But some people saw personalized and they thought, oh, this is a chance for me to write something personal. I'm thinking, that's not even on the form. You know the form. So I think if you're concerned about the labels, the moderated really helps, because that's where you see where people make stuff up. They're confused. Oh, personalized. Yeah, that's about me personalizing. No, it's does your customer have a custom message for you? Charlene says, maybe I missed it, but when you do the tree test, do you put some kind of limit on how long they can go clicking around to find the right answers? Not really. So what happens is at the end, and we'll have to see the results another day. I don't think in 15 minutes I can go through all the results of all three of these, but what you get at the end is you get time. So you get to see how long people took on the tasks, both in a kind of box plot, box and whiskers. So kind of like percentiles, as well as shortest time and longest time. You also get an optimal workshop. You get a really, really cool, weird exploding pie chart where you can see where did people go and where did they go somewhere and then turn around and come back, and where did they go and turn around and come back and then finally land on something. And so it gives you a good idea of the wrong directions that people went in and what they declared their final answer, even if the final answer was wrong. The last time I saw this pie chart from Optimal Workshop, it was not colorblind friendly, which made me sad. I don't know if they fixed that, but it's really easy to read and use. Whenever I show it in the workshop, people are blown away by it. They're so excited. But again, not sponsored. You can use any tool you like. So I don't think you can put a time limit on the task. Let's see. Settings. No, I don't think there's a time limit as far as I can see. So hypothetically, people can spend 20 minutes on it if they want to, but they shouldn't, especially if you're only giving them 2, 3, 4 tasks. I would say if you have more than 4 tasks, maybe run separate tests. I don't want to give people 12 tasks. I think we're asking too much of them, unless you're telling them this is a 40-minute study and we're going to give you $60 or something like that. Normally, these are 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It should go fast because it says you're curious about AirPods for your iPhone. Oh, okay. iPhone. Learn. AirPods aren't here. Is it an application? No. Okay. Is it more iPhone? Ooh. No. Okay. Where could it be? It's not Apple Watch. And then usually people will pick something else outlandish because they just give up. Or they'll keep working until they find something. Charlene says, I would like to see how the results come out next time. Yeah, we should do a show just on results and how I interpret them. Let's see if the results are still here. Oh, I had 2 people do this. So this was it looks like the last time I ran this, 2 people did this. So this is not going to be very fantastic results, but you can see that they spent an average of about 3 minutes. They were both in the United Kingdom. Now, for Optimal Workshop for tree tests, and I can't speak to any other tool, this is the only one I've ever used, they measure success. So that's just kind of mostly black and white. Did they end up on the correct part of the tree and declare that their final answer, yes, no? And then directness. Directness is, did they go straight to that part of the tree and declare it their final answer? Or was there an indirect path where they went over here and then they doubled back and they tried this and they went over here? As soon as somebody doubles back, this is considered indirect. And then there's both kinds. There's direct success, direct failure. You can see it over here. Indirect success, indirect failure, and then, of course, people skipping. So you can see here that for our two people, we had one person was a direct failure. They went straight to something. They confidently picked it as their final answer. They were wrong. And then another person was indirect failure. They kind of went here, went there, and then they still got it wrong. But again, this test was designed for them to get it wrong. I picked the weirdest things on the Apple site so people could see how hard this is and how important it is for us to have better information architecture. So it's a little bit of a manipulated test in that sense, but it's a great teaching tool. Now, how do we analyze this? So here's my two participants. I can see their answers to their questionnaires. I had a QA engineer and an other. They didn't answer the other stuff. What was their first click? So sometimes you'll hear people talk about first click test, and the idea is, are people going in the right direction? Now, for me, that's not enough. I don't want to just know they're going in the right direction. I want to know they're going to get there. So I'm usually doing the whole tree test and not just first click. And you can see we fooled them. Both people went straight to iPhone. I actually have a variation of this where 24 people have answered it. Let's take a quick look at it. I think it said I have 24 people. So out of 29, 5 people started it and abandoned it. The median time is 2 minutes 50. Many are from US, with some from India, Canada, and other places. 75% of people are getting stuff right. 31% are doing it directly. So I think of that as a measure of confidence and other things as well. So you can see how the tests went. Many people eventually got to the right place. Remember, to me, only the dark green, and I know this isn't colorblind friendly, but only this darkest green that says direct success is, to me, a success. That's somebody who went straight to the right answer and declared it the answer, and they were right. If somebody went indirectly and eventually found the right answer, I do consider that a failure. So while it is an indirect success, I count it as a failure, and I think that's an important thing to think about. So my analysis, task results. Hey, they changed the colors. Optimal Workshop, I'm so proud of you. Woo woo. So basically, you can see you get some box plots here, box and whiskers plots. So you can see some of your percentiles of how long people took to do this. And this is an example of where a longer amount of time is definitely bad news. Why should it take someone 36 seconds to figure out where in the navigation they're going to find AirPods? You would hope that that's something that takes 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 7 seconds, if they're, thinking a lot. So to see that something, this is just number one, task number one, 36 seconds people are spending trying to find this. To me, it's just another sign that there is failure here. You can also see from the slightly improved colors, now they've got these two too close. Oh, Optimal Workshop. You can see they've got most people were indirect successes. They did not go straight to the right answer. They bounced around a lot and they eventually landed on the right answer, though a few people, 4 out of the 24, got it wrong. And then one was like, skip this. And then this was the second one. You can see this was a little bit different. People were maybe either more familiar with the Apple site or they happened to be musicians. They knew that it was found under Mac applications, or that just seemed the most logical to them, whichever it may be. So that one did a little bit better, but you can see even there, only 7 of the people, 29%, confidently went straight to the right answer. 10 people bounced around and eventually got there, which is not a sign of confidence. It's still, you can still have the 4 horsemen of bad UX show up: frustration, confusion, disappointment, and distraction. So you want to fix it. And then, of course, we had 29% never find the so-called right answer. And another thing that Optimal Workshop shows you here is the pie tree. And the pie tree, oh, this looks different than it used to. I think this is still okay. It used to be different. This is a little bit, I think I'm going to have to zoom in. This is, I wonder if I like their old version better. But anyway, you can see that ultimately the correct answer is Music AirPods Overview. And we can see that because they have the correct path in green. Again, I'm sorry for people who are colorblind. They did not fix that part. So the idea is you can see that there were people who started on the right path and came here. But then somebody went over here. That was the wrong path. But they turned back. That's what the blue means. The blue means they turned back. They didn't give up. Yellow is where somebody nominated the correct answer. Someone said, I think I'm here. Now you can see some of the other things that were nominated are just people giving up. Where are you going to find AirPods? Online support. That's just someone who gave up. And you can see from all of the blue pie pieces, that's where people turned around. Red says they went down the wrong path. Blue says they turned around. Charlene says, I'm having difficulty understanding this type of graph. Yeah, I think their old visualization was better. Oh, I see I have a choice up here. Oh, that's the old one. Okay, I think this one's a little bit better. But again, pick one of these two and hopefully it works for you. But the idea is that you can see where people went, where they doubled back, where they nominated a correct answer, and where they're going the right direction, where they're going in the wrong direction. So this can also sometimes answer a question of, if people didn't expect to find AirPods on this page, where did they expect to find it? So we can take a look at where people expected to find it from some of those nominated answers. And if we see lots of people nominating a certain answer, like in these cases, it's one person each time. So that might not be as strong. Let's try the second one and see what the tree looks like there. Aitan says, I want to make this for my life. Right and wrong choices. Oh, you could. All right, so let's see how we did here. 3 people nominated this as the correct answer, even though it technically wasn't. One person. The old chart used to have circle sizes based on how many people nominated it. I think they're doing that here, but it's a little subtle. So the idea is that the more people hit a certain spot, the larger the circle is, which would give you a little bit of a clue. Let's see if I can. This is being grumpy. Let's try reload it. So again, this deserves a much longer discussion, but in short, this is the kind of information you get, and I think it can help you know where maybe some of the information should be, because it's where people expected it. Should the information be in 2 places? Remember, you can put information in more than one place. Maybe AirPods go under Mac. Maybe they go under iPhone. Maybe they go under everywhere. You could use AirPods if they're hot and you're trying to sell them. Or do they go under accessories? Maybe they go in 3 places. This can help you know people's perceptions and mental models and where they think things go. We've only got a few minutes left, so please do ask any last questions that you have. That way we can get all of our questions out. But this was certainly a good look at setting up unmoderated studies. Of course, these aren't the only unmoderated studies, but these are the key ones that I'm usually doing. We looked a little bit at the results from the tree test, but in general, we probably need a whole other show doing a micro lesson on interpreting these, because there's so much in there. So back to me, Lou, and of course, once more, not sponsored, everybody. Work on that. So, any other questions before we wrap up? I think, August is coming to a close, and I had tried to fill it with micro lessons. I think we did 2 or 3, plus some nice interviews, maybe more than 2. I don't remember now. But check the micro lessons playlist. That's where this will be. And of course, please do subscribe on the YouTubes. I always appreciate more subscribers. There you go. And of course, the tip jar is optional, but buys me chocolate chips. So thank you for any tips you want to send over, deltacx.link/tip. It will make emojis explode on the screen if we are live. And of course, usability test. You don't need it in a study, but usability test that subscribe button and the bell over on YouTube, and empathize with the like button. And of course, when the stream is over, please leave some comments. That will help us with the algorithm. Remember, you can still enter our monthly giveaway, deltacx.link/giveaway. You can see our upcoming shows at deltacx.link/events, /reaction for the reaction stream, /ask for the Ask Me Anything shows, /coaching if you think you need some coaching, /portfolio -review if you think you need one of those, and /HR-training if you'd like to see or recommend my free course called Attracting and Retaining CX and UX Talent. That is meant for HR and hiring managers and recruiters. So there you go. So if there's no other questions, I'll wait a few seconds just to check. If there's no other questions, I'll play us out of here, and we will all meet again next week. Let's see what's coming up on the show. Monday. Monday is our first panel on the realities of UX work. Michelle, Charlene, and Wilson will be talking about what working in UX is really like. And our target for that are some of you who are thinking about getting into UX or studying it now or trying to find that first job. I really want people to know what it is really like, because it is not all roses and sticky notes. Charlene says, my question. Where? Charlene, I'm not seeing your question. I only saw I have difficulty understanding the graph. I agreed that it was a little weird and it takes time to get used to, but I'm not seeing a question. And I did answer, do you put a limit on the tree test? So if it has a link in it, it doesn't come up. YouTube strips it out. Oh, it didn't come up. I will wait for Charlene's question because so should you. Hopefully Charlene is typing it and typing it fast. Charlene says, okay, when you do a tree test, do you also add links to other sections within the page? No, the tree test itself, I mean, let's say you have a page and the page has 3 sections. You are only trying to figure out if people end up on that page. You're not trying to, because it would be in your navigation hierarchy. So typically the tree test is something that's going to be something that ends up in a navigation. It could be database organization. We used it last year, as you heard. Oh no, that was card sort. Yeah, so tree test a lot of time is hierarchy and navigation. So you're not necessarily going to say top of page, middle of page, bottom of page. We're not going to know if people scroll to find it. We only know if they would make it through our navigation to find that page. Now, of course, some people say, well, I don't use the navigation. I'm just going to search for it. And I say, well, that's fine. But there are many people who still use navigation on websites, in apps, in SaaS systems, in enterprise systems to get to certain places. And for them, we have to make sure that the navigation makes sense and that when people have a certain task, that they can figure out where on the site they should do that task, and hopefully from the navigation. So no, I'm not necessarily saying this is at the top of the page, this is at the middle of the page, this is at the bottom of the page, because it's not realistic, because people can't see those things. Now you're just writing it in a tree, like top of page says this, middle of page says this. Well, what if they don't scroll? They'll never see it. So nope, you're not looking at sections within a page necessarily. You could card sort for maybe what should go on the same page because there's something in common with it. But again, if you're thinking about tasks, chances are you're putting different things on different pages. I hope that helps. So on that note, I'm going to play us out of here. And thanks to everybody for hanging out. It was a fun show. Keep these suggestions coming for any other micro lessons you'd like. And I'll make a note to do more in-depth unmoderated results and how I tend to interpret them. So everybody be well, wear 6 masks, and I guess I will see you. We don't have a show tomorrow, right? Well, I can't even remember. No, it's Darren's meetup tomorrow, so I might see some of you at Darren's meetup. But otherwise, I will see everybody for Friday reaction stream where I've already gotten lots of stuff. Oh, TJ says, thank you so much. This was my first micro lesson with you. I've been doing UX for a year, but never a tree test. It'll go in my toolkit. I hope all of these will go in your toolkit. And then TJ, watch episode 123 that we did 2 days ago, where we talked about moderated versus unmoderated and when you want to do each one. Because yes, it goes in your toolkit, but it doesn't mean it's the tool you always choose. Thanks again, everybody, and see you Friday for the reaction stream. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are